Hey everybody. So, I came up with this idea randomly to look at the IMDb top 250 movies. And so these are the movies that are like the highest rated on IMDb. Now, the reason I'm doing this is everyone kind of knows the list is a little whack. Like there's stuff on it that doesn't necessarily make sense to be in like that high of a caliber. So today we're going to be reacting to it. So we already have the top 10 here. So right off the bat, you got number 1, The Shawshank Redemption, which honestly I think is a fair thing. I think of to, for the best movie of all time, like I think that one fits really well. Number 2, The Godfather as well, I think certainly, but I actually think Godfather 2 is better than the first one. So it's interesting to me that their ratings are so, I don't know, that point difference, that point 1 versus the point 0 is definitely a big difference. Now, this is The Dark Knight at number 4. I really do not agree with this. This is stupid and it shouldn't be this high. In fact, if we go to the page, it has a 9 out of 2 million reviews. Its Metacritic score is actually much more, fair. 84, I think, is a much better rating than, fourth best film of all time. I simply do not believe it's the fourth best film ever. I just don't. 12 Angry Men is another one of those movies where it's like, yep, that definitely deserves to be in the top 10. It's by far, like, the best movie from the 50s. Am I allowed to say that? I'm going to say that. It's the best movie from the 50s, easily. And Schindler's List as well deserves to be that high. But this is also where I kind of have a point of contention. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, I do not think should be in the top 10 greatest movies of all time. It's a fine film. In fact, it's probably one of the best third acts, third finales, you know what I mean, ending to a trilogy. It's up there with like Return of the Jedi, and it deserves to be noted as a great film. I know it won a shit ton of Oscars, and I think it won Best Picture, actually. Best Picture 2003. Was it Lord of the Rings? Oh no, whoops, 2004. Yeah, it was Lord of the Rings. Wow, that's crazy. People really love these movies, and I've never been too crazy about them, but I certainly do respect them. They came out in the early 2000s, and their main competition was Harry Potter. And critically speaking, I think Lord of the Rings has done better in the long run than Harry Potter did. So it's certainly interesting to see just how those films have coexisted, especially since most of them were filmed very similar to each other, and they're all really long. And they're good films. They're great films. I don't think the third one deserves to be in the top 10. That's just me. Pulp Fiction. I love Pulp Fiction. I really do. Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. But I don't really know if it deserves to be in the top 10. It's certainly one of those movies where you really have to understand. I don't want to sound like a prick, but it's kind of busy, right? There's a lot that it's trying to say. And its ending is obviously regarded as iconic. It's one of the most famous movie endings of all time, with Jules in the briefcase and all that, and what was in the briefcase and everything. So it certainly is a really well done movie. It has some of the best dialogue I've ever seen in a film, and just the way that characters interact and roll off each other and stuff like that. And I love oh my goodness, I cannot be doing this. How am I forgetting his name? The boxer. Oh my god. Bruce Willis. I love Bruce Willis in this movie when he gets the katana and everything, and the gimp. I really like Pulp Fiction. It's ingrained into my brain and I love it. It's great, but I don't think it's top 10 material. However, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the Western, right? It is definitely the most iconic Western. Everyone knows about it. You may not have seen it, but everyone knows about it. You got Clint Eastwood as Blondie, and it's classic. So I th- I'm I think it definitely deserves to be on the list, definitely. But I don't know about top 10. It's definitely one of those things where I don't know about top 10, but maybe. And then number 10 is Pulp Fiction. Well, Fight Club. Every dude bro's favorite movie. I really like this film. And obviously it's kind of a cult hit. It never really did well critically, and it definitely didn't do well at the box office. And it didn't really come into the public's eye until about 2002, 2003. Um, but it's an iconic movie just because of its ending. And David Fincher, he kind of knows what he's doing. Um, and so top 10 though, I don't agree. I don't think it should be in the top 10. Let alone number 10, but it's a great film. I can't deny that. And that's the thing about this list. Like pretty much everything on here except for maybe The Dark Knight, in the top 10 really deserves to be here. I think The Dark Knight is one of the most no, The Dark Knight is the most overrated film of all time, and I hate using the word overrated. I think it's improper criticism, but there's no other way to describe that film for me personally. I like it. I think it's great. It's a good Batman movie, but fourth greatest film of all time, I don't buy it. Sorry. I just don't. Then number 11, Fellowship of the Rings. Fellowship of the Ring. It's kind of the same thing. It's the beginning of the adventure. It's like A New Hope, but for the Lord of the Rings, and it's a fine film. It is a little anticlimactic, and that's kind of one of the issues I have with the Lord of the Rings movies. Is they're fine, they're great, they're awesome, but it's really only the third one where you finally feel that sense of like climax and satisfaction. The first two films are very slow, and they're trying to set up the world and show the characters growing and telling a story and everything like that. And the first two films, they don't really have a climax to them. They don't really end on a note that you're kind of like, oh, you can't wait to watch the next one. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, and especially back in the early 2000s when the movies were coming out, and you'd read the books and everything, I'm sure that you were looking forward to the next ones. But they didn't really, when I was going through them for the first time, because I hadn't really seen them until about 2 or 3 years ago. You know, it took me a long time to really get to the third one, and that's because I was watching the extended cuts as well. I own the 3 movies on the extended versions on Blu-ray. I think it's the 4K Blu-ray too. The films are gorgeous looking, but they're kind of slow. They aren't really like. It's not like for some reason the Hunger Games is coming to my mind, but the first one ends, and it kind of has a thread of what's to come, but the way that Catching Fire ends especially, and I think it's important in a 3-act structure with movies, if you have 3 movies, and we'll get to that in a second with number 14 here, but it's important to have a reason to go see the next one. And that's, for example, why I think The Last Jedi completely fails. It's the most misstepped second act to a story. I think it's a quote from Mike Stoklasa, but it's a bizarre one. I don't really know what they were thinking, and I'm not saying that The Two Towers has that issue, but it's important for a movie that's trying to tell a story across 3 films to keep you in captured in it, and so that's why I kind of think Lord of the Rings doesn't necessarily fit on this list. Return of the King, certainly out of the 3, is the one that deserves to be in the top 50. Probably, but again, I don't think Fellowship of the Ring really should be top 11. Forrest Gump, I love Robert Zemeckis a lot. I really like. Obviously, I love Back to the Future. If you know anything about me, and Forrest Gump is definitely a much more serious film. So it's slower. It's trying to tell a story, but it also is heartwarming, and it's a classic tale. But it's nothing like the book, and I actually think the book's kind of bad. So the fact that Zemeckis and crew were able to adapt the book that was kind of mediocre into a cultural icon, like how many times in your life have you heard someone say "Run, Forrest, run"? um, or life's a box of, Mama always said life's like a box of chocolates, stuff like that. I can't deny the impact that Forrest Gump has had on culture and film culture in general. And it's one of the better Tom Hanks films for sure. But I do think it's a little overrated. Again, I hate using that word, but it's a fine film. It's a great film. But top 12, I don't think so. And that's the same with Inception. When it comes to Christopher Nolan, I think Inception is not only the most interesting film he's ever made, but I think it's probably the best film he's ever made. And again, I know The Dark Knight exists. Okay, I understand. I get it. But Inception is one of the most unique movies to ever exist. And that's why I think, for me, I hold it in a higher regard compared to his other movies, right? You know, The Dark Knight is based off of a comic book series, a comic book character. There's source material to draw from. Interstellar is a much more realistic sci-fi. It's kind of an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey and classic sci-fi. His earlier films like Memento and I guess to an extent The Prestige, they are kind of a meta genre thing, especially Memento, which I love that movie too. But Inception is wholly unique, with an amazing premise, and everyone tries to put this on a pedestal of, oh, it's such a confusing movie, and I'm not in that boat. I think the first 10 minutes, if you've never seen the movie before, are confusing because it's designed to be that way. You're not supposed to understand what the gimmick is right away, a dream within a dream, and then how that works. But just the world building alone in Inception, I think, is phenomenal. And again, I have a little bit of a bias here because it is my favorite Nolan film, but I think Inception, I kind of like where it's at on the spot. I don't think it deserves to be higher, but it could be lower, honestly, maybe 15, 16. But higher, I don't think so. I think it's pretty comfortable where it's at, and again, I love Inception. Okay, this is where I'm going to have probably the biggest bias out of everything we've talked about so far, but that's Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This, for the longest time, has pretty much always been my favorite movie ever. It's one of the best sequels ever made. It has the most amazing plot twist to ever occur in a film. It has my favorite characters that have ever been put on screen. Yes, I love Marvel, but I still think what what Kershner and oh my God, what's his name? Kasdan were able to do with their writing and Kershner's directing, phenomenal. I love The Empire Strikes Back, but I acknowledge, compared to everything above it, it's maybe not as good. Maybe. But it's one of the most important movies ever made, so I think it deserves to be where it is, to be honest, but not higher. Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, I kind of already have talked to at length about Lord of the Rings, but it's, sure, I'll just say that, sure. Maybe not top 15, but sure. This is one where I'm going to have, this is a huge point of contention for me. I do not really like this movie. The Matrix. I love Keanu Reeves. I respect the Wachowski sisters, or just, I guess they're called the Wachowskis now. I don't love The Matrix. I really don't. It's too ham-fisted. It tries way too hard, and it's kind of boring. And the most interesting thing about the Matrix movie, they never talk about. And then the sequels, which obviously shouldn't be on this list, completely abandon what the Matrix was about. And I'm not a huge fan of the Matrix. So personally, I think it hasn't aged well, and I definitely don't think it is as good as everyone says it is. But hey, just my opinion. But yeah, I definitely don't think it should be anywhere near top 20 or 25. So yeah, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, definitely deserved. It's a classic, and it's kind of, I almost don't want to say this, but it's almost like the death of, how do I say this, of traditional movies, because Jaws and Star Wars came out in the 70s, and Alien, and they completely reinvented how you made movies and how you approached things, and how to build a franchise and a big blockbuster hit. But, looking at it from today, with hindsight being 2020, you can just really acknowledge that they sat down to make a movie. They didn't try to build a blockbuster. They didn't try to, you know what I mean. So it's a movie I respect a lot. If it wasn't fucking, you know, boring. But it's dramatic, and it's impressive, and everyone loves Jack Nicholson, right? Like, everyone. Goodfellas. Out of all the Scorsese films, sure, I'll give it. I'll say yes for this one and move on, because it's Goodfellas. Everyone knows the Goodfellas, right? And then Seven Samurai I've never seen. I haven't seen it, so I really can't say. Seven, it's a David Fincher film. It came out before Fight Club, and for a lot of people, you have your Seven people and you have your Fight Club people, which is funny. But it's another David Fincher film with Brad Pitt in it, so it's kind of, you have your Seven people and your Fight Club people, but there's definitely much more Fight Club people out there. City of God, I haven't seen. I don't know anything about this movie, actually. Just by looking at it, it looks like Oscar bait, but whatever. Life is Beautiful, again, I haven't seen this one. That that 59 on Metacritic doesn't match that, which is interesting. I know nothing about this movie. I don't even know who this is. Yeah, okay. I don't feel too bad about not knowing that one. Silence of the Lambs should be way higher. It should be way higher on the list. Like, what is it doing at number 23? This is one of the most unsettling movies I've ever seen in my life, and I think about it on a daily basis. And at the same time, everyone's freaking out these days about representation, and I'm all for representation. But, like, are you forgetting about Jodie Foster in the 1991 movie Silence of the Lambs? It's great. I love this movie so much, and I wish more people talked about it. You kind of have your whole, like, Hannibal Lecter thing. That's kind of the thing that people remember the most. But there's so much more to Silence of the Lambs, and I wish it was higher on this list. In fact, I don't know. I don't want to boost its review score, but that's okay. And again, I'm going to be super biased here, but A New Hope definitely deserves to be in the top 25, but it should be higher. Again, it should definitely be higher. But hey, that's just me. A New Hope's classic, phenomenal practical effects, wonderful storytelling, amazing characters, climactic, exciting ending, and satisfying, that kind of sets the road for the future. Like, what are they going to do? And I love it. I just love Star Wars. I love the original two, and I like Return of the Jedi. And, I think they're great stories. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. I'll say yeah. It definitely should be up there. Top 25 for sure. Saving Private Ryan should be higher. It should definitely be higher. It might just be my favorite Spielberg movie. Maybe. No, it definitely is my favorite Spielberg movie. I can't really... Yeah, it's my favorite. And it's probably my favorite Tom Hanks movie. I really like Saving Private Ryan. It came, you hear all the stories about, like, how people were in the theater throwing up, or they had to leave, and that means, to me, the movie accomplished what it was trying to do. It showed the horrific, just how horrific World War II was. And I think it's great, honestly. Okay, 27. This one's going to be really interesting. Spirited Away. The first animated movie to appear on this list. Now, I'm going to go on record. I'm not a huge Miyazaki fan. I'm sorry. I'm just not. But Spirited Away I really like. It's a gorgeous film. It's beautiful, but I don't really get it, honestly. For me personally, I don't really understand it. I don't dive into it as much as everyone else does, and I wish I could. I should probably rewatch it one of these days, but I think it definitely deserves to be in the top 50. It's an animated film, and animated films definitely deserve more recognition than they get, and it does not make me disappointed to see Spirited Away being the highest animated film on this list so far. The Green Mile, I think it's pretty good where it is. That's a good spot. I've not seen Haruki. Looks like a foreign film. Can't really say anything, so... Leon the Professional. Okay. I'm about to get on my pedestal here. I love Natalie Portman so much, and I love Luc Besson. He is one of my favorite filmmakers to ever exist on the planet. His most recent movie is a guilty pleasure for me. I think it's awful, but it's fun. But Leon the Professionnel, or as it's just called, Leon, by Luc Besson. I love it. I really, I want to say this should be higher. Genuinely want to say this should be higher. But at the same time, I kind of like where it's at. It's kind of under the radar. Not everyone talks about this movie anymore. But Luc Besson, out of all his movies, you got The Fifth Element, which is classic, honestly, like one of the most underrated movies ever, personally. But Leon is probably the best movie that he's made, honestly. And it's an action crime drama, and I'm a sucker for those. But I don't like The Dark Knight for some reason. Oh well, I'm gonna get rid of this most popular list. Okay, Interstellar. So I was talking before about Nolan and how his ideas aren't wholly original. But Interstellar is one of my more favorite films of his. In fact, if you asked me 4 years ago what I thought of Interstellar, I'd tell you I loved it and it was my favorite movie ever made. I've changed my position on that, obviously, because I wouldn't be sitting here if that were the case, because I'd be, whatever. But I think Interstellar is pretty good where it's at. In fact, over time, I've kind of started to realize its weaknesses and how it's not quite the masterpiece I once thought it was. But I still really like the movie. It captures my imagination, even though it's like 3 hours long and it has like one of the most pointless scenes I've ever seen in a movie, but that's okay. But I do really like Interstellar. On a technical level too, it's really impressive to me. The miniatures that they used, and with the combination of CG and everything, is great. Okay, here's my time to be crucified. I have not seen The Usual Suspects because I don't like Bryan Singer very much at all. Yes, I know McQuarrie wrote it, but I really can't get past the fact that Bryan Singer made it, and I know that's kind of a bad thing, like for a bias to get me that far, but it really is the movie that allowed him, quote unquote, to direct the X-Men movies in the early 2000s. So I have to respect it for that. Okay, The Lion King. This is another animated movie that we're finally seeing on the list, and in the wake of the remake and everything, right? I've been thinking. When the movie came out, it came out in like July, right? July 19th or something like that. I didn't watch it, obviously. I refused to see any more Disney live-action remakes beyond Mulan. Mulan's the only one where I'm going into it saying I'm actually looking forward to it. But I rewatched The Lion King instead, the original, and holy shit. It had been a long time since I'd rewatched it, I was probably the last time I watched it, I must have been like 12 or 13 or something. I was still pretty young, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I was starting to get into more serious films at that age, which I hate saying now. That sounds horrible, but it's true. Like, I was turning into a bit of a film bro. You know, I had discovered Pulp Fiction, I had discovered Fight Club and The Matrix and all that. But with The Lion King, rewatching it this year as a much older person with much more perspective on life, I really think this is definitely one of the best movies Disney's ever produced. And it's funny, I mean, everyone tells this story nowadays, but you know, The Lion King was the B project, right? Pocahontas at the time was the A project. That had everyone. That had Alan Menken on it. It had Bob Iger was putting more money into it, and or not Bob Iger, Michael Eisner was putting, you know, all the focus, all the A-list people at the time were on The Lion King. Um, but you know, Pocahontas released to kind of meh reception at the box office, and it's one of the more forgotten films of the Disney Renaissance. But you know, when you talk about the Renaissance with people, it's The Lion King, Little Mermaid, and Mulan. Maybe I don't know. Mulan's kind of underrated at times, but Lion King's so great. The themes have held up. I wish it was a little longer. I understand it's an animated movie, so they have constraints, and Disney kind of never wants their movies to go beyond, like their family movies to ever go beyond an hour and a half, if possible. If I remember correctly, this is just barely an hour and a half. Yeah, 128. Um, Man, though, I like actually cried when I rewatched this, and as time's gone on, I'm a much more emotional person than I used to be. And so when I'm experiencing a movie and it finally just kind of gets to me, I'm gonna cry. And I don't really ever remember having a huge emotional attachment to The Lion King, but now with a new perspective on it, I'm gonna be pining for The Lion King for a long time. It's one of the best animated movies ever, one of the best Disney films, and it definitely is deserving to be where it is on the list. It might even it might even should my brain. It might even it could possibly even be higher. There we go. I have words. American History X, I literally have never heard of this movie. It has Edward Norton in it. So therefore it's a good movie. Oh god, it has Edward Furlong in it. I should watch this. Who Tawny? I've never heard of this movie. Okay. I'll get around to it. Back to the Future. I love it. I love it so much. The 80s was a great time in cinema. Um, and Back to the Future is great. I love it. And I don't think it should be any higher, honestly. It's one of those movies where I kind of acknowledge that it's kind of silly and cheesy and not that great and hokey, but it definitely is culturally important, and I love it. And I like where it is on the list. The Pianist, I've not seen it. I've heard a lot about it, and I know people like it, but I have never seen it. Modern Times is a classic. It's I don't think it's the best Charlie Chaplin movie. Um, I think City Lights is the best Charlie Chaplin movie, but you know, Modern Times definitely at the time was a really good We Live in a Society movie, you know. And he goes out on the street and everyone thinks he's like um, a commie, and it's great, honestly. But I don't think it's the best Chaplin film. Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Why is it number 38? Why is it not like 20? Like, okay. I was not alive when the movie came out, but if I was my age or a little younger when Judgment Day came out, I just saw a movie on here that I'm going to fucking laugh about. Um, but if I was 17, 16, 18 when this movie came out, I would have gone to the theater every day to watch it, and I'm not even kidding. Um, I love it. Absolutely love Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And it's up there, you know, with one of the best sequels ever made. And it built off of a movie that was never intended to ever receive a sequel, which is what makes it so fascinating, that they managed to create something that didn't feel like a cash grab. They managed to create something that was almost more emotional than the first one, almost. I won't it's up there. It's pretty emotional. But I love it. I love it so much. It's awesome. And again, Sarah Connor. Why everyone's freaking out. I mean, again, the new one's coming out, so she's kind of in the limelight again. But not enough people talk about the older female roles, like Ripley and Sarah Connor, right? Not enough people talk about it, and you know, Linda Hamilton's back in the limelight again with the new movie, and I'm guarantee that movie's gonna suck. It's gonna be like a 5 out of 10. But Judgment Day, last great Terminator movie. I'm a sucker for 3, to be honest, even though it sucks. But. Oh, there it is, City Lights. There we go. City Lights. So honestly, swap City Lights with where is it? With Modern Times, and we have a good one. Intouchables. I didn't finish this one. I only watched half of it, and I kind of turned it off. And I kind of agree with that 57, even though I never finished the movie. But I didn't love it. I was not hooked. Sorry. So can't really say anything about that. Psycho. Oh, I mean, come on, Hitchcock. Like, is it the best one? Maybe. It's really good. It might be higher or should be higher. But it's pretty good. Okay. 41. Don't get me wrong. I kind of get why this movie is this high, and that's because it's so new and people are still kind of formulating their opinions on it and everything. But you have to realize, I think this one's definitely going to go down over time. For me personally, Endgame is not the best MCU movie. On paper, I just don't think so. On paper, I think the best MCU movie is probably Guardians of the Galaxy or The Winter Soldier or the first Avengers, maybe. But I saw Avengers Endgame 6 times in the theater. I cannot deny that I absolutely adore it. But at the same time, I don't really know if it should be in the top 50 greatest movies of all time. It's in my top 50 greatest favorite movies of all time, but I don't know. But at the same time, the more I think about it, it's such an achievement that maybe it should be. It's certainly interesting. There's people that want to pick it apart and say, oh, the plot doesn't work because they break their own time travel rules, and I can't believe Captain America was so selfish at the end to use the time travel for his own benefit. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You can nitpick it to the ends of the earth. You can nitpick fucking The Empire Strikes Back. Why didn't Yoda just, train Luke right away if he has the Force and can see the future and blah, blah, blah. You can literally do that with any movie. You could do that with fucking The Dark Knight. In fact, a lot of people do it with The Dark Knight. You can do it with The Shawshank Redemption. Why didn't Morgan Freeman just, you can literally do it with anything. That kind of criticism falls under not so valid. I really like Cosmonaut Variety Hour's whole thing with The Force Awakens, where there's 3 types of criticism: valid, not valid, and yeah, but like it doesn't really matter. So a lot of the criticism towards Endgame fits into the third one, the third type of criteria, where it's like, yeah, but does it really, really matter? Does it really take away from everything? But Endgame, man, it's the end of an era. Like, it's kind of crazy to think that we might hear it. I don't know. Like, there's not going to be an Avengers movie for a long time. 5+ years, probably. It's going to be a long time till we hear the Avengers theme again in a movie. It's going to be a long time till we get a movie like Endgame ever again. And as time has gone on, I'm a sucker for Infinity War. If you've ever read my blog, if you've ever followed me on Twitter, you know this. I have a poster of Infinity War on my wall. I love Infinity War. But I honestly think I like Endgame better as time has gone on. And 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I'll be much more interested in going back to watch Endgame than probably Infinity War, even though both of those films are great. Um, but I honestly think I like Endgame better, and that's crazy to think because Infinity War for me is like top tier. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about this movie and keep moving on because this video's gonna yeah, okay. I'm probably only going to do the top 50 in all honesty. I may go beyond that. But okay, Gladiator. I don't really like this movie very much. Yep, I agree much more with the 67. It's kind of like the baby's first film, you know what I mean? Like in every film class or film study video or whatever, people talk about the hero's journey in Gladiator. Like everyone talks about the plot structure. And so for me it's a little overblown, and so like I kind of don't really, I can't get into it because I've heard it a million times, blah blah blah. It's kind of like Caesar, Julius Caesar. Like everyone fucking knows what happens in that movie or in that story. And yeah. Anyway, City Lights, I talked about it before, but it should I'd swap Modern Times and City Lights. The Departed, it's a Scorsese film. It's pretty decent. It's good. But The Wolf of Wall Street exists. Sorry. Whiplash, I mean, come on. Like, when this came out, people were praising it till the ends of the earth. Like, I've never seen. Okay, no, I have, but just the amount of acclaim that this movie got when it first came out kind of blew me away. But like, what has Chazelle done? Oh, he wrote La La Land. Okay, I guess. Pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's okay. Once Upon a Time in the West. Okay, we were talking about westerns, right? This one's pretty good. I definitely think The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in the West are like up there. Like they're the westerns. They're gonna be the ones that people think about the most. Here we are, The Prestige. I was talking about this before with Nolan. It's a pretty good film. He did it after Batman and before The Dark Knight, so it's kind of in that weird window where not a lot of people remember it, but I think it's pretty good. And I like where it's at on the list. Casablanca, though, man. I know I said earlier, but oh god, I'm scrolling way too low. But I think for me personally, yep, 100. I agree with that. I genuinely agree with Casablanca should be way higher, like way higher. It should be like 15, maybe. What is that? 15. Lord of the Rings, yeah, replace the Two Towers. I don't even care. Casablanca, man, it's amazing. It's classic. It has one of the most like beautiful stories ever told. And it's great. Too bad it's old as shit. Wait, you know what I'm surprised I haven't seen on this list? Where is it on this list? We'll keep going. I've not seen Grave of the Fireflies. Rear Window. For a lot of people, this is their favorite Hitchcock movie. And I get it. I really do. But I'm kind of lukewarm on Rear Window. I like it. I like what it's trying to do and everything. But it's a little creepy to me. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I've not seen Cinema Paradiso. I know a lot of people like it, and I've actually been told several times by people that I should kill myself because I haven't seen it. Which, by the way, is not a very good way to entice someone to go see a movie or watch it. Raiders of the Lost Ark should be way higher, dude. Way higher. It's definitely the best Indiana Jones movie. Okay, in my personal opinion, it's the best Indiana Jones movie. It's great. Please Don't Suck, the fifth one. Alien should be way higher. Way, 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 way higher. It's one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. It's so good. Memento. I kind of like where it's at. I really like this movie a lot. And for all the people that call Inception confusing, I feel like they should watch they should watch why is it so hard for me to say? They should watch Memento. It's great. I love it. Now, these are a lot of movies that I have not seen. I have not seen The Great Dictator. Oh, Apocalypse Now. How did I skip that? I like where it's at. I definitely like where it's at. That deserves to be there. But I've not seen The Great Dictator. It's too old. It's a Charlie Chaplin movie, though. Oh, maybe I have seen it. No, I've definitely not seen this. Yeah, definitely not seen it. The Lives of the Others. What the frick is this? Oh, it's a foreign film. Not into foreign films. Sorry. I couldn't say anything about it. Infinity War. I kind of talked about it already. I don't really know if it should even be mentioned on the list, but whatever. Django Unchained. I mean, Tarantino. I love Tarantino, and this is one of his middle. This is like one of the one of his middle films. It's not one you need to watch necessarily. It's good, and it's watchable, of course, but it's also one of the more violent ones too. But I don't think it's one of the necessary must-watch Tarantino movies. Into the Spider-Verse. We were talking about animated movies earlier, and this movie over time has kind of settled. But I honestly still think this is one of the best movies ever made. And it should be higher. The Shining. I'm kind of surprised to see how low this one is, to be honest. But it should be way higher. And, like, where the hell is 2001: A Space Odyssey? WALL-E, great film. No way, though. No way is it the best Pixar movie. No. Sunset Boulevard, man. Can you get weirder than Sunset Boulevard? I don't know, honestly. Speaking of weird, Doctor Strangelove. I think I like it on the list. I like where it is. I don't think it should really move. Princess. I'm not even gonna try. It's a. Oh. It's a Miyazaki. I've kind of said what I said about him. Old Boy. Is this the remake? No, this isn't. Okay. I've only seen the remake, and I didn't like it. So, yeah. Really? The Dark Knight Rises is oh my god. Why is The Dark Knight Rises above Batman Begins? What the fudge? Let alone the original 1989 Batman. Oh my goodness, people. Aliens, it's one of the best sequels ever. American Beauty. What? Why is it so low? Why is it so low? It's too low. It should be higher. It's a weird movie, but it should be higher. Coco. I'm not a huge fan of Coco. I didn't really like it much. Your Name. I've been told a bajillion times to watch it. Braveheart. I mean, it's Braveheart. We're kind of getting into movies at this point where I'm like, why are these here? Like Reservoir Dogs at 81. Like, what? It should be higher. It should be in like, okay, no, maybe. It should be in like the 60s. It should definitely be a little higher. But Toy Story, great, should be higher. Amadeus, overrated. We're kind of getting into Good Will Hunting, great movie. I like where it's at. Inglourious Bastards, kind of the lower tier Tarantino for me. I'm surprised we haven't seen it. There it is. 2001: A Space. There it is. What is this movie doing so low? Like, genuinely, I'm kind of surprised. I'm really surprised how low this is. What number was it? 92. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, though. Maybe the best Jim Carrey movie. Maybe. Maybe. But yeah, I'm surprised to see 2001: A Space Odyssey and Citizen Kane so low. But hey. Full Metal Jacket, pretty good where it's at. Hunt, good where it's at. North by Northwest, pretty good where it's at. Oh boy, A Clockwork Orange. This movie's really fucking bizarre. And if you've seen it, you know that it's bizarre. It's one of the most crude and violent and horrific and scary and disturbing movies I've ever seen. And I like where it's at. Snatch, I don't know what this is. What is this? It has Brad Pitt, and I've never seen. Oh, it's a Guy Ritchie movie. Oh. Don't really like Guy Ritchie, so sorry, not gonna watch your movie, sir. Even though, that cast: Jason Statham, Brad Pitt, Benicio del Toro, pretty good cast. I'll say that. The film bros love this movie too. The Kid, blah blah blah. Yeah, we're kind of getting into things where I'm like, Taxi Driver, finally, yes, okay. This is my personal favorite Scorsese film. I love it. Should be higher. Metropolis, classic. Yeah, we're kind of in the part right now where I'm kind of like, I don't know. There's just so many movies now where it's kind of like I don't really know what the. There's Batman Begins, Green Book, Children of Heaven. Wow. Howl's Moving Castle, The Great Escape. Why is that not higher? That's a great movie. I'm surprised I haven't seen like. Oh, there's The Wolf of Wall Street. It's probably I don't know. I love Taxi Driver, but I also really like The Wolf of Wall Street. So I've not seen Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I know it got like a lot of acclaim for, well, let alone its title is weird as shit. But I want to watch it for sure, and I should get around to it. Inside Out should be higher. Room. I kind of think Room's overrated. Kinda. Definitely Brie Larson's best film, but I don't think it's all that great. No Country for Old Men should be higher. Way higher. Trainspotting, pretty good where it's at. Elephant Man, oh, fine. The Thing should be way higher. Definitely the best Carpenter film. Definitely. Like, this 57%, get that out of here. This is one of the greatest movies ever made. Like, literally. The way they made this movie is insane. Like, I love it so much. It's mysterious, it's scary, it's terrifying, and it ends and it's completely unsettling. Gone with the Wind, I'm surprised how low that is. Blade Runner, there we go. I was about to say, where's Blade Runner? There it is. Jurassic Park should be higher. Kill Bill Volume 1 should be higher. Fargo should be higher. Big Lebowski is pretty good where it's at. Truman Show should be higher. I feel like that's a super underrated movie at times. Hacksaw Ridge is fine where it's at. Gone Girl, good movie. But yeah, we're kind of, I think, I hate this movie. I hate How to Train Your Dragon, sorry. Persona, like the game. But yeah, we're kind of at the point where I'm running out of steam. Mad Max should be higher. Hilary Swank from $1 Million Baby. I never bought this movie, honestly. It's fine, but I never bought it. Hachi's on here? What the frick? Why? Doesn't even have an IMDb or a Metacritic. Why is this movie on here? What the fudge? This is one of the most bland-looking movies I've ever seen in my life. But hey, it's a classic story, I guess. Ben-Hur should be higher. I'm just gonna spot Deathly Hallows is definitely the best Harry Potter movie. Sorry, it just is. Toy Story 4, I'm surprised. It's new though, so it's kind of settling into its spot. It'll probably go lower. Rocky should be way higher. I'm kind of surprised how low it is. Princess Bride should be higher. The Help should be higher. The Terminator should be higher. Guardians of the Galaxy should be higher. Aladdin should be higher. And Winter Sleep, the 250th best movie ever made. And it's a foreign film. So of course I haven't seen it. Well, this was kind of an insight into madness and, oh, whoa, IMDb ranking. Oh, it's the same thing. Number of ratings? What's the most reviewed? Shawshank? Okay. And then my rating. I'm not signed in, so. I wonder if this changes anything. Probably not. From lowest to highest. I should have started from lowest to highest, but that's okay. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I don't even know how long this video was, but it probably like an hour. So thank you very much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, comment down below what is your favorite movie on this list, and if it's The Dark Knight, good for you. Have a good one, guys. Take care.